Incredible twist. Single mom rescues drowning billionaire, now she's mysteriously vanished. Developing story explodes in Maplewood. The sun blazed down on the quaint town of Maplewood as Sarah dove off the diving board into the crystal blue water of the local pool, where laughter and splashes echoed through the air. Her son Jake cheered from the sidelines, his spirited energy infectious. For Sarah, 38, each day was a balancing act of responsibilities: work as a waitress at the corner diner, and being a devoted single mom. Yet, that afternoon the ordinary would collide with the extraordinary. Chatter filled the air. A sudden commotion rippled through the crowd. Panic surged as Mark, the billionaire in town for a charity event, floundered in the deep end. Sarah's heart raced. Without a second thought, she leapt into the water. It was freezing but invigorating, her body slicing through the surface like a torpedo. She could see Mark struggling, his eyes wide with fear. The world around her blurred. It was just them now. With sheer determination, she reached him, wrapping her arms around his flailing form. Together, she fought against the water, pushing them both back to safety. The cheers erupted as she emerged, gasping but victorious, her breaths mingling with the crowd's adulation. But amidst the applause, a nagging voice in her head whispered, "You'll never be one of them." As the community celebrated her heroism, the weight of envy and judgment settled in. They admired her bravery, yet whispers about her financial struggles lingered, making her feel like an outsider. Mark, on the other hand, saw her not just as a rescuer, but as someone who bled integrity and resilience. Their friendship began to blossom, a bridge woven between their contrasting worlds. "Sarah," Mark said one afternoon, his tone serious, "I'm committed to helping this town thrive, and I want you to be part of it. I could offer you a job that pays a fortune, a chance to escape this life." The thought seduced her, but a pull of loyalty to Jake anchored her. "What about my son?" she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. In that moment, she felt torn between hope for a better future and the duty to her child. Before she could reconcile her thoughts, fate intervened. One night, Sarah vanished without a trace. The night fell with an eerie silence as Jake stumbled into the empty kitchen, confusion tightening his chest. "Mom?" he called into the void, his heart pounding. Rumors ignited in their small town. Did Mark have something to do with it? The whispers grew louder, painting their hero in shadows. Jake, just 16, was left to unravel the mystery of his mother's disappearance. Each day without her felt like losing pieces of himself. Driven by love, he embarked on a quest to uncover the hidden truths lurking within their tight-knit community. Life lessons flooded in about loyalty, class, and the inherent injustices woven deep into society. Each clue revealed a darker underbelly of Maplewood that he never imagined existed. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As whispers of betrayal flooded the town, Jake sat on his bed, the darkness swallowing him whole. Where was his mother? He clenched his fists with determination, ready to confront the truth. Could he face what lay ahead? Could he prove that love and loyalty could combat the forces threatening to tear their family apart? The question nagged at him, gnawing deeper as he faced the chilling possibility that time was running out. Would he find Sarah in time, or was she lost forever? Jake's heart raced as he scoured the dimly lit room, his mind racing with unanswered questions. Where would his mother go? Why hadn't she called? He pushed away the gnawing fear that threatened to pull him under. With determination hardening his resolve, he grabbed his phone, flicking through the contact list frantically. Mark's name stood out like a beacon, but trust was fragile now. Could he really turn to the man who might hold the key to his mother's disappearance? He hesitated. It felt wrong, but desperation often twisted morality. As he stood at the edge of the precipice that divided trust and suspicion, he dialed. The ringing seemed to stretch on, each tone amplifying his anxiety. "Jake, what's wrong?" Mark's voice shot through the line, sharp and alert. "Have you seen my mom?" Jake managed, his throat tight. She hasn't come home. Not since the pool." Mark's voice faltered, the tension palpable even through the phone. Jake, I promise you I will help. I'll come over. Within minutes the door creaked open and Mark stepped in, a figure of calm amidst the chaos. He moved with purpose, his brow furrowed as he scanned the room, taking in the disarray of unwashed dishes and little reminders of Sarah, the framed photos on the wall of her smiling face at Jake's side, the remnants of her laughter that once filled their home. Jake, we need to get the police involved. This isn't just a normal disappearance, Mark said, his tone serious, yet reassuring. That pulsating fear twisted into anger bubbling just beneath the surface. You think I'm just going to trust you after everything people are saying? You're part of the problem, Jake shouted, frustration erupting like a volcano. Mark's face darkened, but he maintained his composure. I understand how you feel. But this is about your mom. We need to focus on finding her. Jake faltered, caught between his instincts and the glimmer of hope Mark offered. Time was precious. He couldn't afford to let fear dictate his actions. He would confront the rumors, the hidden truths that wrapped around their lives like a thick fog. Reluctantly he nodded. Fine. Let us go. As they made their way to the police station, the weight of secrecy surrounded them. The soft buzz of conversation faded into an eerie quiet as Jake entered, his heart pounding in his ears. He stepped up to the desk, where an officer glanced up curiously. My mom's missing. No one seems to care. Jake's voice cracked, desperation breaking free. The officer's expression shifted instantly from routine to concerning. We'll need to file a report. Can you tell me when you last saw her? As Jake recounted the last moments he remembered, every word slipped out as if a puzzle piece were falling into place. Just then he noticed a figure lurking at the edge of the station. It was Miss Henderson, the town gossip and librarian. With her piercing eyes scanning the room like a hawk, before he could react, she approached. Jake, darling, have you heard about the party at the old Miller estate next weekend? There are whispers things could get messy. And your mother, she was mentioned. What do you mean? He demanded, anger shaking his voice, but even as he asked, a chilling thought crept in. Was there more to Sarah's disappearance? Had she gotten herself tangled in something deeper than the ordinary conflicts of their lives? Jake turned to Mark, determination flickering in his eyes. We need to dig. If she's in trouble, we have to find out why. As the two raced against time, the question haunted him. What kind of secrets lay beneath Maplewood's seemingly peaceful surface? With every step, Jake felt the stakes rising. Would they uncover the truth before it was too late? Jake's heart raced as he stepped out of the police station, the buzzing energy around him contrasting sharply with the calm facade he was trying to portray. Mark followed closely, casting worried glances at Jake, who was now consumed by a growing storm inside. The mention of the Miller estate party lingered on his mind, gnawing at him like a rabid dog. How could Mom be involved in something like that? Mark cleared his throat, breaking the silence. Look, I know this isn't easy, but we need every bit of information we can find. This party, it might be important. Jake nodded reluctantly, his mind whirling. The Miller estate stood just outside town, an aging mansion hosting elaborate gatherings. Always the center of rumors, it was known for attracting a diverse crowd, sometimes dangerous, sometimes reckless. He could picture his mother attending, a glass of wine in hand, laughing with old friends, but that image felt too distant now, overshadowed by a looming dread as they walked. Jake's thoughts twisted memories around his mother. The way she'd comfort him after bad days, her smile lighting up even the darkest mornings, the warmth of her embrace. So many moments all reduced to echoes now, and he couldn't stop feeling how unprepared he truly was for this. He pulled out his phone again, scrolling through social media. Maybe someone online knows something, he muttered absently. Mark leaned in closer, eyes darting between the phone screen and Jake's face. What about calling your uncle? He might have heard something or know who to ask. Jake froze. His Uncle Brian lived several states away and hadn't been around much since the divorce. We've barely spoken since. Everything he said disheartened, but his voice trailed off. A feeling of desperation clawed at him. If Brian had any connection to the people from Maplewood, he might be worth the call. Do it, Mark urged. Don't worry about the past right now. This is about your mom. Nodding, Jake took a deep breath and dialed the number. As the call connected, Jake felt like he was teetering on a thin ledge. One wrong word could send everything crashing down. "Hey, it's Jake," he said when his uncle picked up. "I need your help." Brian's voice was distant but steady. "What's wrong?" "My mom, she's missing. I think she might be connected to something bigger, like a party at the old Miller estate. Do you know anything about it?" There was silence on the other end, the kind where distance became a chasm. When Brian finally spoke, his tone was somber. "I heard rumors. That place and its guests, they're not what they seem, Jake. Be careful." Jake swallowed hard. The weight of his uncle's words pressed down on him like a thick fog. "What do you mean?" "Let's just say it's not just a party. Those people have their own laws and they don't necessarily play nice," Brian warned. Jake felt a trickle of cold fear creep up his spine as he hung up. "What the hell are we getting into?" Mark's eyes met his, filled with a mix of fear and determination. "Then let's get to the bottom of it before it's too late." Before they could even conjure up a plan, a distant wail of sirens pierced the air, sending a chill through Jake. He glanced over his shoulder, and that's when he saw a group of people congregating outside the police station. Among them, an unmistakable figure with striking features. A woman who looked a lot like his mother. "Mark!" he shouted, adrenaline flooding his veins. "We need to go now." As they sprinted back toward the station, Jake's heart pounded like a drum. But the moment they reached the crowd, it was too late. She was gone, swallowed by the night. Now more than ever he had to uncover the truth. What darkness lay beneath the picturesque surface of Maplewood? With urgency driving him forward, Jake turned to Mark, determination blazing in his eyes. "We need to find her before it's too late and find out who else is involved." The cool night air whipped around Jake as he scanned the crowd, desperation clawing at him. Each face was a blur, shadows of people who might have seen something, anything. His breath quickened, his hands clenched into fists. Where could she have gone? He muttered. Mark's eyes darted around, searching for answers in the chaos. "Do you think someone took her? What if she was with someone from the party?" Maybe Jake's voice trailed off, a knot forming in his stomach. Each possibility felt worse than the last. The thought of his mother being tangled in something sinister sent chills down his spine. "I should have been there." "Stop," Mark said firmly, gripping Jake's shoulder. "Blaming yourself won't help. We're going to figure this out together." Jake nodded, but the urgency pulsed in his chest like a drumbeat. They needed leads, a way to connect the dots. "Let's south-check the Miller estate first," he said, determination flooding his voice. "If Mom was there, maybe someone saw her or knows who she was with." Mark hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. "Jake, that place is dangerous, but she's our priority. What if we're her only chance?" Jake's gaze was steady. He wasn't backing down. With a reluctant nod, Mark gave in. "Okay, let us do it. But we need to be smart about this." As they raced toward the estate, the mansion loomed in the distance, its dark silhouette resembling a creature waiting to engulf them. Sweat began to bead on Jake's brow, not just from the run but from the growing fear of what awaited them within those walls. Arriving, they parked a safe distance away, the flickering lights from the party a beacon that beckoned them forward. It looked lively, a world apart from the chaos they'd just left. Laughter spilled out like an inviting song, but it was deceptive. Jake felt the weight of realities colliding. "Stay close," Mark whispered as they approached, the sounds of music and merriment surrounding them. Jake's senses heightened, every noise becoming amplified in his ears. They ducked into the shadows, creeping closer to a side entrance, where a few guests chatted freely, wine glasses in hand. Jake's heart raced as they edged closer. He could hear snippets of conversation, talk of wealth, connections, and deals. But beneath that fluorescent social veneer lay something darker, lurking just out of sight. Suddenly, someone stepped out from the crowd. A man in a sharp suit, talking animatedly to his companion, a sly smile on his face. Jake stopped dead in his tracks. The way he moved, the glimmer in his eye, it reminded him of a predatory animal, prowling for its next target. Instinctively, Jake reached for Mark, pulling him back into the shadows. "Do you think he could be involved?" Mark whispered, eyes narrowing at the stranger. "Only one way to find out," Jake replied, steeling himself for what was about to come. They edged nearer, listening intently. The man was speaking about the estate, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Tonight's just the beginning. We've got a perfect setup for, well, let's just say acquisitions will be made." Jake felt his blood run cold. Acquisitions? What kind of game were they playing? And what role did his mother have in it? Hey! A voice suddenly echoed from behind them. Panic flooded Jake. He turned just in time to see another guest sauntering toward them, eyes glimmering with curiosity. What are you two doing hiding back here? Jake's mind raced. We're looking for someone, he stammered, desperately trying to maintain his composure. Well, come on then. The real party is in here. The stranger beckoned, unfazed by their presence. Mark grabbed Jake's arm. This could be our chance. In that split second, Jake decided. They had to go in. They had to confront whatever dark thread had tangled his mother in this web of wealth and danger. They took a deep breath and followed the stranger inside, heart pounding as they stepped into the whirlwind of chaos. As they entered, the atmosphere enveloped them, a mix of laughter, music, and an undercurrent of tension. Suddenly it hit him, the walls were lined with familiar faces, people he remembered from his childhood, but now their smiles seemed malicious, their eyes flint-like with secrets. Before he could process this realization, chaos erupted. A loud crash came from the far end of the room, a table flipped over, glasses smashed, and a figure was shouting. Jake's heart leapt. Did you see that? He whispered urgently to Mark, pointing. Yeah. Let us find out what's going on. Mark replied, eyes locked on the disturbance. As they moved toward the chaos, adrenaline coursed through Jake. Something was about to change drastically, and he had to be ready for it. Would this lead them closer to his mother or deeper into danger? The answer hung in the balance, just like the tension in the air. With steely determination, Jake pressed forward, ready for whatever storm awaited them. But this was different. Something was shifting, a palpable energy that spoke to them, urging them closer to the edge of revelation. What awaited them there? Jake took a shaky breath, knowing one wrong move could change everything. Jake and Mark pushed through the crowd, each step heavier than the last as the cacophony of laughter mixed with the growing tension around them. Jake's gut twisted. The anticipation was thick, almost suffocating. They weaved through clusters of guests without drawing attention, but the familiar faces held him back. These were people from his childhood, now twisted with unrecognizable motives. A sharp scream pierced through the revelry, cutting to the core of the chaos. Jake's heart dropped as he watched a woman crumple to the floor. A drink spilled at her feet. Her panic was contagious, and Jake felt the urgency rise again. He exchanged a glance with Mark, whose eyes were wide, scanning the scene for a pathway through the madness. Head toward the back, Mark suggested, gesturing with his chin. We might find something there. Jake nodded, heart racing. They squeezed between laughing guests, trying to appear casual, but every smile felt like a mask hiding something sinister. The laughter was nothing but hollow echoes to him. He could only think of his mother, the uncertainty gnawing at him like a shark circling prey. They reached a set of double doors, just to the side of the main room. It led to a dimly lit hallway. Jake hesitated, glancing back to the party. He didn't want to leave the noise of the crowd. It felt safer. But he couldn't ignore the urgency. Now or never, Jake muttered, pushing the doors open with a loud creak that echoed through the hallway. Inside, peeling wallpaper whispered secrets of lavish days long gone. The air felt heavy, cloaked in dust and mystery. Mark stepped in beside him, eyes scanning every corner. Do you think she could be here? Mark asked, his voice barely a whisper. Maybe, Jake said, the weight of their search pressing down on him. They ventured deeper into the hallway, where strange sounds of clinking glasses and bacon frying wafted from a doorway at the end. They crept closer, their breaths shallow as they approached. Jake caught snippets of conversation. Words like deal and last chance slipped through the cracks, making his stomach churn. He could make out silhouettes through the frosted glass and sense the shifting tension brewing within. The door cracked open, and a figure stepped out, one that made Jake's heart stop. It was Lucy, a friend of his mother's. At first, Jake felt relief wash over him at the sight of someone connected to her. But then he noticed her eyes. They were fierce, haunted even, as if she carried 1,000 burdens. Jake, she hissed, glancing nervously back into the room. What are you doing here? You shouldn't be. Where's my mom? Jake's voice trembled, a plea wrapped in desperation. Lucy swallowed hard, biting her lip. You need to leave. It's not safe. They won't stop until what? Mark interrupted, stepping closer. What do you know? The tension thickened and Lucy's eyes darted around, panic rising. You don't understand. This place, it's a trap. I can't talk here. Follow me. With that, she turned and hurried down the dark hallway, glancing back only to ensure they were close behind. Jake felt his instincts kick in, both nervous and excited. They hurried after her, dodging the laughter and music behind them. As they reached another door, Lucy hesitated, glancing over her shoulder again, her face ashen. Please, you have to trust me. I know what you're looking for. What is it? Jake demanded, fear threading through his voice. Just then, a loud crash erupted from the party room, followed by shouts. Everything around them seemed to still. Jake's heart hammered in his chest. Quick! Lucy urged, yanking the door open and pulling them inside. What's going on? Mark's voice trembled slightly as he stepped over the threshold. Everything is connected, Lucy breathed out, urgency crackling in her tone. And your mother, she's right in the middle of it all. Jake felt a chill creep down his spine. What do you mean? But before Lucy could answer, the ground shook with a deep roar, a commotion reverberating through the walls. Something was happening outside, something dangerous. Lucy, what is going on? Jake pressed. They had come too far for half-truths. In that moment, an ear-piercing scream erupted from the crowd as the doors behind them swung open, revealing shadows of approaching figures. We need to go now, Lucy shouted, tugging Jake and Mark into the room before the door slammed shut behind them. Jake's pulse quickened. He caught a fleeting glimpse of a familiar face among the shadows that sent his heart racing, someone he never expected to see. Wait, who is that? He asked, desperate for answers. But the chaos that followed was only the beginning of a revelation that could change everything. How deep did this web go? And would his mother be caught in it? Jake squinted through the murky gloom of the room, trying to decipher the figure he had just glimpsed. The shadows danced as the commotion outside intensified, a sea of raised voices crashing against the walls like angry waves. Mark's grip on Jake's forearm tightened. Jake, focus. Mark hissed, his breathing rapid. This isn't the time to get distracted. Jake's mind raced. That face, it could change everything. Just when he thought he might catch a glimpse of clarity, Lucy pulled him further into a dim corner of the room, away from prying eyes. They're coming, Lucy whispered urgently. She looked at Jake, her expression torn between fear and determination. You'll have to trust me. We can't let them find you here. Lucy, you need to tell us what's going on, Jake said, the desperation in his voice matching the urgency in her eyes. Who were those people? And how is Mom involved? Lucy glanced back at the locked door, a bead of sweat trailing down her temple. Your mother stumbled into a situation far beyond her control. It involves some very dangerous people. They think she has something they want. What do you mean, something? Mark interjected, eyes darting around the room, checking for other exits. What does she have? Lucy bit her lip, her trembling hands revealing the real weight of her anxiety. I can't tell you everything now. They're tracking us, and the less you know, the better. But you need to get out of here now. Not without knowing more, Jake asserted, pacing in place. He couldn't leave with only fragments of the truth. You can't just drop a bomb like that and expect us to run. Before Lucy could respond, the door rattled violently. The distant echoes of it being shaken could be heard, punctuated by heated voices. Now, Lucy insisted, hands gripping Jake's shoulders. I promise I'll explain everything once you're safe. Follow me, and whatever you do, don't make a sound. Jake felt resentment bubbling up within him, but the growing sound of approaching footsteps forced him to swallow it. He reluctantly nodded, taking a deep breath to quell the adrenaline surging through him. Lucy led them to a narrow wooden door at the back of the room, its paint peeling and old. With urgency, she pushed it open just enough to peer through. A long, dark stairway descended into the unknown. Go, she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark stepped forward, followed by Jake, whose heart raced like a jackhammer. They descended into the darkness, the stale air around them closing in. Each step echoed unnaturally in the silence. I can't believe this is happening, Mark muttered, shaking his head. What if we're walking into a trap? It's better than being caught out there, Jake replied, glancing back toward the faint light above. He could still feel that unseen threat looming as they reached the bottom. They entered a basement filled with crates and old furniture. It smelled damp and musty, as though forgotten by time. Lucy pushed past an old couch, leading them toward a small window barely illuminated by moonlight. "If we can get through here, we can find a way out," she said, her voice sharp yet hopeful. They squeezed through, leaving the comfort of the familiar behind as they emerged into the night. The stars overhead seemed distant, the world around them cloaked in a foreboding stillness. But at least they were outside, momentarily free from the chaos. Jake looked around, trying to gather his bearings. "What now?" he asked, fear creeping back as the adrenaline faded. "I can reach someone who knows where your mother is," Lucy said, determination etching her features. "But we have to move quickly because we aren't alone. They will be looking for us." Just then, Jake heard voices drifting through the night air, calling out from the direction they had just escaped. Panic ignited once again. "We have to run." As they turned to flee, a cruel laughter echoed in the distance, chilling Jake to the bone. The game was just beginning, and he had no idea how deep the danger ran. "Jake," Mark gripped his arm. "We can't let them catch us, we need to split up." "Are you crazy?" Jake shouted back, panic rising. "That's suicide. If we stay together, they'll find all of us. It's the only chance we have." Mark's voice was firm, leaving no room for doubt in that moment. The choice hung heavy in the air, and Jake felt the weight of the world bearing down on him. He had to decide. Stay as a team or take the terrifying risk of splitting up in a desperate bid for freedom. "Quick! What do we do?" Jake's heart raced, knowing that whatever choice they made could change everything. Jake's pulse thundered in his ears, drowning out the manic laughter lingering in the air. The fear gnawing at him felt like a living thing, curling around his stomach and squeezing tight. He glanced at Lucy, her face set with determination, and then back at Mark, who was practically shaking with adrenaline. "Splitting up is crazy," Jake insisted, desperation edging his voice. "We can't just assume it's safer that way. The longer we stand here, the less time we have," Mark insisted, raising his voice over the fading laughter that seemed to mock their hesitation. "I'll take the left side of the building. You guys head right. We can meet back at the alley behind the diner in 5 minutes. If we're not caught." 5 minutes. Jake felt his chest tighten at the plan, as if it was some lifeline thrown into a stormy sea. What if there's no time? Lucy nudged him, her eyes fierce. "Every second counts, Jake. Just trust us, okay? We can't let them catch all of us. Get moving." Mark's grip on Jake's shoulder tightened for just a moment. "Remember, don't let them see you. We've got this. Just be smart." And with that he took off, slipping into the dark like a shadow. Jake stood there frozen for just a heartbeat, the weight of the decision weighing heavily on his shoulders. He watched Mark disappear, a part of him wanting to call him back. But then Lucy's hand clasped around his wrist, pulling him away. "Come on," she urged, sprinting down a narrow path shrouded by trees. Jake followed, the sense of urgency igniting a spark of rebellion against the fear coursing through him. They ducked under low branches, the night pressing in on them, thick and suffocating. They reached a street corner and stopped, panting heavily. The faint distant sounds of voices and footsteps seemed to drift like smoke, swirling around them, taunting their every move. Jake felt a chill race down his spine, and he glanced at Lucy, her expression a blend of resolve and concern. "What if they find Mark?" he whispered, hating the helplessness creeping back in. "They won't," Lucy assured him, though the doubt in her voice was almost imperceptible. "He knows how to stay hidden. We need to focus on finding your mom. That's our priority." A knot twisted in Jake's gut as he swallowed down the worry for his friend. "Okay, fine. But what do we do now? You said you could reach someone who knows where she is, right? How do we do that? Follow me." She pulled him down a side alley lined with broken pavement and flickering streetlights. It felt like they were diving deeper into a dark ocean, every instinct screaming for them to turn back. But Jake forced himself to take another step, even as the shadows grew heavier. They turned a corner, and a small dimly lit diner came into view. The flicker of neon signs chased away the darkness, offering a fleeting sense of safety. "This is it," Lucy said, pointing to a payphone attached to the outside wall. "I can make the call from there." What if someone sees us? Jake looked around, nerves rallying in his throat. Trust me, she replied, moving toward it with purpose. We'll be quick. I'll just make the call to someone I know. Jake hesitated but followed, glancing around at the empty street before focusing on her. The way she held herself, so determined yet still trembling, gave him a strange combination of hope and dread. Lucy cradled the receiver, the dial tone buzzing loudly in the stillness. The world felt suspended, a secret in the dark as time moved sluggishly around them. He could sense it, this moment hanging by a thread. She pressed the buttons with practiced ease. Jake could only hold his breath, willing this to work. As she murmured into the receiver, a movement caught Jake's eye. In the distance, shadows flowed in their direction, quick and purposeful. Fear coursed back into his veins. Lucy, someone's coming. Her eyes widened as the urgency in his voice echoed. What? We have to go. Now. Jake grabbed her arm, and they bolted back into the depth of the alley. The sound of footsteps grew louder, the thrill of danger rising around them like a storm. Where do we hide? Lucy's voice was frantic now, her heart racing against her ribcage. There. Jake pointed to a stack of old crates pushed against the wall. They crouched behind them just as the figures emerged, their faces illuminated by the streetlight. Jake held his breath, feeling every nerve in his body on edge. As the figures passed, their conversation drifted to Jake's ears, chilling him to the bone. Did you see where they went? One voice asked, laced with menace. No, but they won't get far, came the response, and a cold shiver crept down Jake's spine. Lucy looked up at him, eyes wide, her next words lost in the fear hovering in the air. Suddenly, a hand grabbed Jake's shoulder from behind. He was spun around, and before he could react, a voice growled. Caught you? Jake's heart pounded in his ears, reality crashing down around him. The hunt wasn't over, and the storm was just beginning. What had he gotten into? What happened next could change everything. Jake felt the world tilt beneath him as he was spun around. The figure that loomed over him was a shadowy silhouette, his face obscured by the dim light. Panic surged through Jake, pushing him into a fight-or-flight response. He managed to free himself from the grip, stumbling backward, eyes darting for any possible escape. Where do you think you're going? The voice taunted, dripping with malice. Lucy was at his side, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and courage. Run! She shouted, and with instinct kicking in, they both bolted down the alley, adrenaline fueling their legs. The footsteps chased them, heavy and relentless. The danger on their heels felt as palpable as the night air. Each tight turn and sharp corner brought them deeper into the labyrinth of shadows. It was like navigating through a twisted maze with no clear exit. Their shared urgency extended beyond words, an unspoken understanding that every second counted. Jake felt Lucy's hand grip his tightly, anchoring him even as they sprinted toward uncertainty. The street! She cried, pointing to a faint glimmer ahead, the street they had traversed moments earlier. With a last burst of speed, they emerged into the open, the neon lights of the diner illuminating their path. But relief was short-lived. They could hear the thud of their pursuers behind them, echoing like a heartbeat of impending doom. Inside! Now! Jake exclaimed, pulling Lucy towards the diner door. They burst in, the bell chiming sharply above them as they stumbled through the entrance. The inside was dimly lit, a contrast to the chaos outside. A few patrons turned to look, curiosity etched on their faces. What's going on? An older man behind the counter asked, his brows knit together in concern. They're coming. Help us. Lucy gasped, her voice cracking with urgency. The man's eyes widened, and with a quick motion, he gestured towards the kitchen. Go. The back door is your best chance. Jake and Lucy didn't hesitate. They darted toward the kitchen, heart rates pounding in sync as they raced against time. They heard footsteps approaching the door behind them, the sinister voices seeping through the thickness of the air. In the kitchen, the smell of greasy food mixed with the intense fear that enveloped them. They skidded to a stop, glancing anxiously for the exit. A door leading to the alleyway stood ajar, the dim light beyond flickering like a beacon. Through there. Quick! Jake urged, and they pushed through the door together. As they stepped into the cool night air, a sense of hope flickered again. But it was quickly snuffed out when they realized they were cornered by a high fence. Panic gripped Jake, nearly paralyzing him until Lucy grabbed his arm, her voice steady. "We'll climb. You go first." She was right, though every logical thought screamed it was a bad idea. Jake nodded, and together they scrambled up the fence. Just as they reached the top, he heard a loud crash behind them, the diner door bursting open. "Now!" he shouted, launching himself over the other side. He landed awkwardly, hitting the ground hard but barely registering the pain as he quickly scrambled to his feet. Lucy followed right after, and they bolted down the next alley, desperation pushing them forward. They ran until they could barely breathe, but soon carelessness slipped into exhaustion. Jake pulled Lucy to a stop against the wall of a nearby building, both struggling to catch their breath. The shadows felt alive around them, but they had to keep going. They couldn't allow everything to slip away. "Why don't we just call for help?" Jake wheezed, trying to formulate a plan. Lucy shook her head vigorously. "They could be listening. We're on our own for now." As they paused to catch their breath, a single chilling voice echoed through the night. "We know you're out there." Jake's heart dropped. They were still being hunted. Would they ever truly be safe? As doubts clawed at his resolve, he realized their journey was far from over. The truth awaited them, a truth that could change everything they thought they knew. But would they have the strength to face it? Jake could feel the pressure in his chest tightening, fear gnawing at the edges of his mind. "What do we do now?" he asked. Every sound around them suddenly amplified, the rustling leaves, distant sirens, and that ominous voice still echoing in his ears. Lucy glanced around, her brow furrowed with determination. "We need to keep moving. If they know we're here," she trailed off, her eyes wide with dread. "Yeah, right." Jake nodded. "Let us find a place to hide." They slipped into another narrow alley, the walls closing in around them. The shadows felt crushing, almost alive with the threat of being discovered. Lucy stayed close, their shoulders brushing as they hurried deeper into the darkness. "There." She pointed toward a rusted door that appeared almost invisible in the gloom. "Let us try there." With a hasty but quiet urgency, Jake pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, sending a jolt of panic racing through him. They squeezed inside, finding themselves in a cramped storage room, the air musty with the scent of old wood and dampness. "Do you think they saw us?" Jake whispered, his breathing shallow as he leaned against the door, holding it closed. "I don't know. But we should be quiet," Lucy replied, her voice just above a murmur. She peered through a small window covered in grime to the alley outside. "I don't see anyone, but that didn't mean they were safe." The weight of silence pressed down on them, filled with the unsaid fears and uncertainty of their situation. A moment stretched on like an eternity until Lucy's eyes darted away from the window and back to Jake. What if we suddenly there was a loud crash outside? Jake's heart raced, sound slicing through the stillness. "What was that?" "I don't know." Lucy's voice quivered. Jake squeezed the side of the door, feeling it shake slightly as it threatened to give way. "We need a plan, Lucy. We should find a phone. Or something." Lucy shook her head. "No phones. They could track us. We need to blend in, be smart." "Blend in?" Jake echoed, trying to focus through the panic. "What do you mean?" "We look like we're running from something. Then let us make ourselves look like we belong," she insisted. She rummaged through a stack of boxes filled with forgotten items. "If we can find some clothes, we can at least disguise ourselves." Jake's eyes widened in realization. That might actually work. They began to sift through the boxes, pulling out old jackets, worn hats, and even a couple of oversized sweatshirts. In the dim light, they quickly changed, grabbing anything that might help them look less like frightened kids and more like ordinary passersby. "Okay, I'll go first. You follow right after," Jake said, adjusting a frayed cap over his messy hair. Lucy nodded, her determination resurfacing. "Let us move." Cautiously, they opened the storage door, peeking out cautiously. The alley was still, save for the distant sound of laughter from a nearby street, a reminder of the normal lives going on around them while they teetered at the edge of chaos. With a quick nod to each other, they stepped out into the night, hearts pounding in their chests. "Where to?" Lucy asked, scanning the area around them. "Over there, toward the streetlights." Jake pointed to where the flickering glow peered into the alley, promising a more populated area. They started walking cautiously, trying to act casual and blend into the night crowds, but their eyes remained sharp, always searching for signs of danger. Suddenly, a voice boomed behind them. You think you can run forever? Jake froze, sheer terror flooding him again. They were not safe yet. Lucy's grip tightened on his arm. Run! And they dashed into the blinding lights of the street, hoping to vanish into the shadows of the crowd before it was too late. But as they fled, a single thought raced through Jake's mind. Who were these people hunting them? And why? With each step they edged closer to the truth that would change everything. But were they ready for what lay ahead? The alley felt like a deep pit as Jake and Lucy sprinted into the street, weaving through the crowd. Heart racing, Jake struggled to focus amid the swirling lights and sounds. Every second felt like eternity, but he couldn't crumble now. His mother was out there somewhere. And he was no coward. Over here. Lucy pointed towards a small network of shops, their awnings lit softly in the dim glow of street lamps. They ducked inside a vintage bookstore, the familiar scent of old paper inviting but disorienting under the circumstances. Keep your head down, Jake whispered, as they pressed themselves against a shelf filled with books. Shadows shifted outside, a reminder of the unknown danger that sought them. I can't believe we have to hide in a bookstore, Lucy said, a shaky breath escaping her lips. But it feels safe here, doesn't it? Jake nodded, but his mind raced. We need information, Lucy. Where's my mom? What does she know? Just then, a woman in a heavy sweater entered, her face lined with worry, scanning the room. Jake's pulse quickened. They weren't going to survive just by hiding, but maybe she could help. Before he could stop himself, he stepped out from behind the shelves, his heart thundering. Excuse me, ma'am. The woman turned, eyes wide. Jake quickly continued, please, we're in trouble. My mom is missing, and we think it's because of something happening in this town. You have to help us. The woman hesitated, glancing nervously outside before moving closer. What are you talking about? Are you two in serious danger? Yes. Lucy's voice burst forth, urgency spilling over. Please, we have to know about the Miller estate. Do you know anything? Any parties? Anything strange? The woman's brow knit together and she leaned closer, lowering her voice. A lot has been happening out there. The Miller estate hosts gatherings that they attract all sorts of people. Some good, some very bad. They dangle promises and fortunes, but it's a web designed to ensnare. Jake felt a spark of insight. That's what they meant by acquisitions. They're not just parties, it's bigger than that. Jake, Lucy whispered, pulling his arm. Time's ticking. Right. He turned back to the woman. Do you know where they meet? How we can spot them? She hesitated, then whispered, meet me at the cafe down the street in an hour. I can tell you what I know, but know that what you're stepping into is dangerous. Then, she slipped out as stealthily as she had entered. An hour, Lucy echoed, anxiety swirling in her eyes. Do you think we can trust her? We don't have much choice. We're running out of time, and every second counts in finding Mom. This might be our only lead. Just as they turned to leave, a voice bellowed from the street. There they are. Jake's heart dropped. He turned, and the figures emerged, threatening shadows against the city lights. Run! He shouted, pushing Lucy towards the back exit of the bookstore. Navigating through the narrow aisles, they burst out of the store into the alley once more, adrenaline fueling their escape. Around a corner, they spotted an empty van parked under a flickering light. Do you think we can? Jake started, doubt creeping in. We can't wait. Lucy's determination pushed him onward. They darted inside, locking the doors. Lucy whispered, what now? Jake peered through the grubby windows, heart pounding. We wait for the chaos to pass. We need a plan. A sudden shattering noise erupted in the alleyway. One last glance confirmed the figures searching every nook. This is our moment. We'll figure it out from here. We need to reach that cafe. Lucy nodded, and together they slipped out the back, adrenaline surging as they dashed for safety. As they crossed the street and hurried toward the cafe, the world blurred around them. But clarity struck when they recognized the need to find Sarah, Jake's mom. Love propelled him forward, the hope of reuniting stronger than fear. Inside the cafe, they scanned the room, tense yet hopeful. The woman waved from a corner booth, gesturing them over. As they approached, relief washed over Jake. Maybe this was the turning point. The woman leaned in closer, looking over her shoulder before speaking quietly. I know where your mother is. She's mixed up in something dangerous, but you must listen carefully. Jake's heart raced. This was it, the path to his mother, and he was ready to confront every danger that came with it. Time slowed as the woman spoke, her words weaving a tale of deceit and hidden truths, a map of dangers surrounding Maplewood that unfolded before them like a secret waiting to be revealed. With every word, Jake felt the embrace of hope, ignited by the conviction of love. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were about to become warriors for family, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. With faith in their hearts and brave marrow in their bones, they would plunge into the uncertainty, leaving fear in the past. And as they prepared to step once more into danger for the sake of true love, the world outside faded, replaced by a single fierce determination. They would find Sarah no matter the cost. So here's where you come in. If you want to see how these incredible stories unfold, you need to subscribe now. Hit that button so you won't miss the next exclusive chapters. Leave a like right now to boost our message and feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about tonight's intense conclusion. This is the moment to show your love for this journey. And don't forget to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You don't want them to miss out. Every action counts. Show your support and help keep the story alive.